My art and my motivation for making my art is about body liberation, which to me means attempting to create safety and belonging for everyone, for all bodies. What I see my work doing is making a space where we can acknowledge the truth of human variation. My name is Grace Athena Flott. I'm a visual artist, primarily working in paint. I work mostly with oil paint on canvas. And I also do a bit of printmaking. So I went to University of Washington. I was on a path to go into economic and labor policy. The thing that tipped me towards art, or returned me to it, was the major injury that I experienced. When I was 20 years old, I was on a study abroad program in Paris, France, and I was injured in this apartment fire. I sustained injuries, burn injuries over like half of my body, and also skeletal injuries. I was in recovery in the hospital for 2 full months, and part of that was in Paris. And then I was medically evacuated back to Harborview Medical Center here in Seattle. An event that just totally changed how I thought about myself and how people perceived me. That experience of like waking up in a different physical reality made me realize that I didn't see any bodies like mine in media. And it turned me towards this kind of like search for meaning and belonging. After I went to the University of Washington, I then went back to school a few years later to learn to draw and paint the figure and portrait, and that was at Gage Academy of Art. So I studied for 4 years in an atelier, which is the French word for workshop, and it's a type of education modeled after the kind of 19th century academic painters who would train students in their studio. I was attracted to that because to me, realism is a very powerful mode of communication. This is an amazing storytelling tool. I got these technical chops, and then when I got out, I realized that, everything I learned was amazing and so useful, and at the same time, it was really rooted in a particular time period and a particular philosophy around what types of bodies are worthy of being portrayed. Being me and knowing my friends and my community of people who might have burn injuries, or just really anybody, we don't really fit into an idealized version. I think about my work as kind of broadening the image of what is normal. So I think a lot about whose body has value in society, who gets to belong, who gets to decide, and what that looks like. So I started a project called New Icons, and it's a collaborative portrait project with people in my community with visible scarring from burn injuries. And it started because I was looking for my own visual history, and I just started talking to friends, and I said, I know how to paint people, and do you want to be in a painting? I think that you are worthy of being in a painting. And people were interested. It just started with one person and grew from there. I know that a few people that I painted, it was the first time anyone even photographed them since their injury. Many of us can relate to feeling othered in some way. That doesn't have to be about even necessarily how you look. I recently had 2 paintings acquired by the Port of Seattle to be displayed at SeaTac International Airport, and it's 2 paintings from the New Icons portrait project. Portraiture is part of the storytelling piece that I'm interested in. People are powerful and they tell a story. Everyone's face tells a story. I'm interested really in the map of the surface of the body and what that says about someone's history and who they are. So someone one day just sent me this call for art, and it was to paint the portrait of Governor Jay Inslee. And I just thought, wow, okay, well, I paint portraits, and I've lived in Washington since I was 4 years old, east of the mountains and west of the mountains, just like him. I applied and interviewed. I met the governor. I met First Lady Trudy Inslee. I met his team. 2 weeks later, we were doing the photo shoot. So it was very fast-paced. Overall, like, the process really mirrored the way that I work for most portrait commissions, which is we started with like a big conversation about the vision. How do you want to be portrayed? What's most important to you? In this case, about your legacy. And then we take that and go into the photo shoot, take 700 photos, and then I select kind of the top images. And with Inslee, what I did is a tiny, or like a small digital version of the big painting. And then I did the painting. It took about 7 weeks, start to finish. The painting was unveiled in January 2025 when he left office, when he retired. 2, 1, huge unveiling at the Capitol building in Olympia. Over 200 people were there. I could not have asked for a better opportunity to do the kind of work that I have done. Being an artist, we try so hard to get our work validated in the public sphere, and that's really meaningful to me. I was lucky enough to get another commission to paint the retired Washington State University president, Kirk Schulz, and I just finished the painting. It's about to be framed and delivered. I'm in a kind of exploratory period. So this is the scar pattern enlarged with a screen print. I'm starting to hit on bringing in like plants and nature more into the work. We see disfigurement and disability quite often in nature, and I also see my scar patterns, like the particular shapes from my body, replicated in cracked earth, in riverbeds, in tree bark. I just finished a painting called Washing with the Roots. And it's kind of an altarpiece about healing through a connection to water or your ancestors and place. The figure is printed with these things I call scar prints by rolling ink on the skin and then pressing paper and pulling a print. And the balsam root is a plant that is really meaningful to me. It not only grew everywhere around where I'm from in Spokane, but it is really resistant and resilient in a wildfire. And as a burn survivor, that means a lot to me. One thing that's important to me to continue working with the figure, as long as we have a kind of body hierarchy in our world, like the figure will continue to be political and really important. I feel like I can speak the loudest about what it means to go through a major change to one's body and not only survive, but turn it into something that is creative and can carry me into the future.